This Week in 40K.
Good morning. It's Colin and Billy for This Week in 40K, the show that is about the grimdark and is the never grim or dark. Right, Billy?
We certainly attempt to be.
Yeah.
Although the warp might be invading my computer, we're finding. Apologies for any background noise.
Yeah, there was a little bit of white noise behind Billy. We don't know what that is. Billy, I was joking with Stephanie last night that now that I've in the last 6 weeks watched all 7 seasons of Game of Thrones and have just a few episodes in the next one, I said, I could just take over This Week in 40K. Billy and I could just talk about Game of Thrones.
Yes, but that is true.
Yeah, but we're not going to do that. But yeah, I have watched. I have 2 episodes left of the terrible season that everybody hates. I haven't seen that part yet. So far, the season's been meh, but fine. So that's what I have to look forward to. Billy, what's going on with you?
Well, as someone who's seen those 2 episodes, I know what you have in for you, and I'm just looking forward to it. I drove back from Tucson over the weekend, and that was fun, and my arms are not tired this time, but also have a 50-person GT coming up this weekend that I'm very much looking forward to. Well, I actually think be the largest event I have ever attended, which is an interesting statement about my experience in competitive 40K.
Are you going to play the Inaris?
I am going to play the Inaris. I am going to play the version that I slightly prefer over you because...
Yeah, it is worse, but that's fine.
Just never been able to make the Mortal Wound Banshees do as much work. I've multiple times rolled Snake Eyes on their Mortal Wound powers, and they don't do as much that way.
Well, that's on you.
It is. My ability to manipulate random number generators manually is just not that good.
Fair enough. All right. Well, I guess we should just dive right in, huh?
We should, but we vamped incredibly well for me to actually pull up the script so I know what we're diving into.
Oh, okay. Well, good job us then.
Indeed.
Our top story.
I'm always mildly worried that I'm going to be too tired when we start doing this, but our theme song just revs me up. I really like it. So our top story is that GW is still not really releasing things, but the meta looks great.
Yeah.
It's so interesting that the basic gist is that the 9.5 update really helped the game a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a lot of criticism of the 9.5 update, right? There's a lot of people talking about how much the CP was going to be terrible and how some factions were getting secondaries that maybe weren't wildly fair for everybody else. There was a lot of that, and yeah, I agree. Certainly armies like Necrons and Sisters have better secondaries than other people, but at the same time, what we're seeing is everybody gets a turn to win, and we're seeing that even Guard is getting some N1, some one-loss games. It does seem, Billy, like Space Marines maybe are in trouble.
Loyalist Marines that are not Blood Angels for sure. Although, when we get to my favorite list of the week, we're going to be able to talk a little bit about that.
Okay. Because you're a Blood Angel fan, or because of the Space Wolf list?
Because of the Space Wolf list.
The Space Wolf list.
Yeah. The second White Dwarf I ever purchased had the first battle report from 2nd edition in it, in which Ragnar Blackmane single-handedly soloed Gaz Golthraka and one lone Wolfguard Terminator with a Power Fist and a Stormbolter held down an entire flank. And 10-year-old me was just sort of hooked on Space Wolves.
Okay. Did you collect a Space Wolf army at any point in time?
I did collect a Space Wolf army. I actually played Space Wolves for a decent chunk of 9th.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You mean 8th? I think you mean 8th.
No, I mean 9th. I mean,
okay.
I found Space Wolf or Thunderwolf cavalry from Australia because I was that committed.
Okay, so you had Space Wolf cavalry, but they did not speak. They had an accent, or they were criminals, or there's some joke about Australia here.
There is, but considering they're apparently the best country in all of 40K, I think we should just bow down to our overlords from down under.
Okay, fair. I'm fine with that. Yeah, so we've seen Sisters win, and Christians of Bile has won, and Tyranids are winning. and just an incredible plethora of different things. Billy, what do you think your S tier is right now? Who are the one or two lit armies that really seem like they are at a unfair advantage over the field?
If we're going to put something in that tier, and I think you could have a very interesting conversation about whether these two factions that I would pick go into that tier or not, it would be Necrons and Tyranids.
Okay.
I think you can both results and my sense of what it feels like on the table. They seem like they are just a little bit ahead of everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
That said, I at least have a plan into both of those factions. Is it a good plan? Is it a plan that's always going to work? Dunno. We're going to find out some this weekend. But in so much of the rest of Ninth, when there's been an S tier faction, you just show up and you're like, oh, okay, well, taking my loss this round. See you next. And it doesn't feel that way to me. I don't know. You're the more expert player.
I think that take is great. The one thing I would caution you against is that you're playing Ynnari, which is a counter meta build.
For sure.
So of course you have a game into those lists. We designed it that way.
For sure, but we wouldn't have picked up a list if it just fell flat on its face into something. I care too much about I want when I lose, it's my fault, not the toy soldiers I'm putting on the table.
Fair. That's fair. I do think that you're right. I think that Necrons and Tyranids are the two armies that, also by win percentage, if you look at the stat check data, I think it's interesting because both Tyranids and Necrons were an obvious winner. At Charity Hammer, right after everything dropped, John Lennon and I said to 1,000 people, Necrons are a problem. They gave too much core out combined with ridiculously easy secondaries, and that's just true.
Yeah.
The small bit short video I made about making the Necron list was actually ended up being true. Like there's several Necron lists this week that look like I took the Silent King and I took some stuff that I wanted to take, and hey, look, I won. That was great. So I do think that Necrons are probably the biggest outlier. And then the weird thing about Tyranids is they don't play the missions that well.
No.
But they smash well, and they're very durable. So despite the ridiculous number of nerfs that Codex received, they dropped a lot. And now over the last few weeks, they've been creeping back up in win rate as everybody takes a bunch of different stuff, but a lot of Leviathan. And so I think that Tyranids might need another nerf. Sorry. That's just the way it's starting to look.
Well, how cheap have they left Tyranid warriors with all of their things that do? Is there a job that they're not good at?
I don't know. It's like 9 points. I don't know. They're not. They're undercosted. It's true.
30, I think, but still,
it's 30 with all their war gear.
Right, but anyway, yes. Happy places. Good for you, Tyranids. Those models have been amazing for forever, and I'm glad we're going to see them on the table.
So I think our message to you is go to tournaments.
Yeah, it's a fun game.
If you're on the fence about whether or not to go to a tournament, get off the fence on the direct, whatever side of the fence is, go to the tournament. It's a weird saying, Billy. I don't know what to tell you.
Sure.
I think that the game is at its best it's been in a long time. We did have part of 9th edition was frustrating, but it's not frustrating right now. The game is in a good spot. Take what you want. I don't think there is a faction in the game that I wouldn't feel comfortable going 3 and that I don't think I could go 3 and 2 with. Me personally.
Yeah. I mean,
I probably could go 1 loss with the vast majority of the books in the game right now. So yeah, take what you want. Take your darlings out. Have some fun. Go to a tournament. Like it is a really great time to play 40K, and hopefully the Daemons book only makes it better. Yes. Because that's what I would like. Shall we continue on to what's new? Let's do that.
Let's do that.
All right, here we go.
What's new?
What's new is that we know that we're going to get announcements.
Announcements of announcements. Nova is not this weekend, but the following weekend, and week into weekend, and there will be a big announcement. Do you want to engage in some rank speculation along with me about what that big announcement will be?
Sure.
So the far out 10th edition still feels a little far out if we're assuming it's next summer.
It's June, yeah.
Yeah.
Probably.
So I'm guessing it's a announcement of a big announcement, and that big announcement is stuff we already know, that we're getting a guard codex and do I call them dwarves? Do I call them squats? Do I call them Votan? Can we just decide how far back in time we're going to call this army?
I want to call them squats, but I don't think we're supposed to.
Okay.
But Legions of Voltan is awful. That's just a mouthful of garbage. It's not good at all. And I have that problem with a bunch of their IP-centric names. Like I'm still calling them Craftworld Eldar, and I don't know how many years ago that is now. But Asuryani is a really awful thing to say, and Eldari is also not good.
Imperial Guard,
Astra Militarum, and then Adeptus Sororitas, I think, is one of the worst ones.
See, I think that was actually in some of the books enough, and Sisters were just never something people played. So that one I at least can jump over to.
Yeah, but everybody calls them Sisters of Battle.
That's true, as I proved when I said it.
Literally the vernacular is to just call them the easy name.
Yeah.
So
all right, so dwarfs. Garden dwarfs is my guess.
Yeah, I'm super wondering, are dwarves a 10th edition codex? That's the thing I'm wondering. Because it seems weird to do a full product launch right before a new edition with a book that will immediately go away. That seems really weird. Like the Guard Codex being this close to a new edition, presuming that all the rumors we're hearing are true.
Mm-hmm.
But Guard Codex being this close to a new edition is already mean. But then to do that for an entire new army that you're immediately going to have to print an index and then book for, I don't know, Billy. I don't know. It could be that they launch with 10th edition. We often get new models with the new edition that are in the starter box. So it could be that they're in the starter box for the new edition. And so you can get like a bunch of dwarfs in that whatever that box is. That would be my thought.
They did something somewhat similar with Sisters where they gave them like a half codex and the new model releases and then like fully released it in 9th. But we shall see. Rank speculation, we'll know more in about a week and 2 days.
Is it called rank speculation because it spells, because it's rank?
That is my understanding, yes.
That's what the saying is? That's honestly what the saying means?
I believe so, yes. The speculation stinks. It is so smelly. But hey, this is a visual and digital medium. You can't smell me. Although I did shower this morning.
You know, I've never wanted Smell-O-Vision to exist.
No, dear God, why?
Especially watching Game of Thrones, those people do not bathe. They're like burning like these thousands of bodies and stuff. He's like, oh, that's why it must smell so bad. And I'm like, yeah, but no one's bathed in like 8 years. So clearly nobody can smell anything.
Mm-hmm.
All right. What else we got? We can talk about dwarfs, don't we?
Yeah, there's the like exosuit devastator guys that are
more Space Marines.
They're standing on stilts. It's kind of cute when you realize it.
Yeah, that's great if they're going to paint my ceiling. I don't know. I think that the dwarf line is cool and all, but as we talked about before, I like variety in the game, and another army that looks like Space Marines is not variety. They just look like dwarf centurions. Like it's just not exciting. I think they're fine. I don't think they're bad models. They certainly have good detail on them. I'm just not excited about the direction they're going. I irrationally wanted like dwarf bikers in leather jackets. I don't think that was ever going to happen, but that's what my heart wanted.
Does the trike rider guy not have a little bit of a duster on?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
I as it said previously, I'm more elves than dwarves, so they're just never going to really speak to me. But, they're cool. They're rounded off, short Space Marines. And we haven't seen them next to other things. So I think the scale of them might do something just visually that we're not aware of.
Okay. I'm down for that.
Yeah.
I don't dislike the models. I just think that they're not different enough from what already exists.
That's fair.
And the vehicle looks like a Fisher-Price space thing from my childhood.
Yeah. I mean, look, once we get the land train, we'll have a much better sense of what
land train.
Yes.
Okay. Luckily, Hank isn't here. If you say land train, if we say it a third time, Hank will appear and just rant at us about it. So let's not say it a third time.
Yes.
Okay, but there's also the Daemons finally did get previewed.
The Codex is announced for pre-order this coming weekend. So if you have good local game stores, they'll let you pre-order the pre-order, which I did. So that, and then the Possessed and Accursed Cultists.
I'm confused. You're saying that it's up for pre-order in 5 days?
I can never. All I know is that I don't. Yes. So the pre-order and the rules leaks should happen this coming weekend, and then we will receive it the following weekend. But
Okay.
a lot of places will let you place your pre-order now.
Okay. So we are in the time where we're waiting for all of the reviewers, and they'll all jump all their rules Friday night.
Yes, that is my understanding.
Okay. This book, more than any other book, I think is going to be guilty of you don't have the whole picture.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot of stuff that other books don't have that's different. And anytime you see a large amount of different, be super careful for making assumptions about 30% of the rules. I don't think we've seen points for anything yet, just as an example, even in the leaks.
There have been some, but they've been leaks that people have been Modern Family spray bottling, so I don't know how much we're supposed to trust them. The leaks have been really tight this time around.
Yep. Well, all right. I guess we will see, and we'll have some demons to talk about next week. Do we have anything else?
Just some cool dice as well, but no, that's it.
All right. You know what? Who's about to have cool dice is us.
Yes.
I'm going to buy dice for people to own that say Busted Tabletop on them that have the shield. I'm going to do it.
I will roll many of those.
Yeah. By the way, did you guys know that we have a merch store? You can go to bestedtabletop.com/store, and you can literally support the network. And we need your support, to be perfectly honest. We're doing a lot of great stuff, and we're growing, and it's fun. But it is, we need your support if we're going to keep doing neat things. So that's just one way you can support us. Another way you can support us is to become a member on our YouTube, which will let you get a lot of content each week. In addition, you'll be able to get the second half of Hank's list interview from each week. This week we have Thousand Sons, by the way, just as a little bit of a teaser. Okay, into what's winning.
What's winning?
Everything. Yay! So we have 10 events this weekend, and I'm going to go through 5, and Billy's going to go through 5. But before I do that, I have to let Gus into my office because he is trying to come through the door at me.
Oh, that's fun.
So why don't you pick one of your tournaments and start talking about it, and I'll be right back.
For sure. So the first of the bottom 5 that I was going to discuss is Gameology Pasadena Hammer of Wrath GT. This one was 35 players down in Pasadena. It was won by Harlequins, piloted by Kyle Perry, Xenos Petting Zoo, local Southern California team. And to the extent that there's innovation happening in Harlequins, 6 boats, 9 troops, 333 shooty bikes. When you have 8 data sheets, there's not a ton of variety you can do. But this one had more troop slots than boats, which was interesting. I guess some of them just sit back and do things. And shooty bikes, which are fun, and actually probably what you should be doing with clown bikes. There was Death Guard with Plague Marine Spam, Sisters of Battle with Bloody Rose. Starting to see Paragon Warsuits crop up. Tyranids 966 Levy Warriors with 2 Harpies. 2 Harpies will be a theme of most of these lists, which makes me cry because they're very good into me. And then an Admech Vec cohort that had a bunch of Chicken Walkers, 4 shooty and 5 punchy, which some of my favorite models.
Punchy Chicken Walkers.
Yeah, I've actually played against them once. They were surprisingly resilient. They still died, but
they roll a million dice if they get into you.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. They did.
Okay, so the largest event of the weekend is the Capital City Bloodbath in Ottawa, Canada, run by the wonderful people at Canhammer. And amusingly, Francois Lalone won, who is a member of Canhammer. He won the Canhammer event, so good for him. And he just took the Levy Warrior build. It's just a lot of Levy Warriors. That's just what it's doing. Good job to him. I believe this is his largest tournament win. I think I've talked to him before, and I think he mentioned that he had not won an event this big. So good on him. Congrats. By the way, Capital City Bloodbath was 6 rounds, 122 players. Second place was the wonderful and talented and hero of the community, Jeremy Atkinson. For those that don't know, Jeremy has been doing a large amount of data consolidation and configuration. I don't know, with tournament winnings to get the data that StatCheck's been sharing. and that Fight Club chaired before. So thank you for the work you do for the community, Jeremy. And he took 2 big Imperial Knights and 7 baby Knights to go 5-0-1 for second place. Congrats to you. Third place was Blood Angels at 5-1. All of these Blood Angels lists are basically look like how many Sengard do I own? Okay, now I'll need other things. Lots of Sengard, Death Company, all the stuff you'd expect. There were a lot of 5-1s at this tournament because it was 122 people within 6 rounds. And so just quickly, it's Harlequins, Imperial Knights, Guard, Harlequins, Sisters, Necrons, Orcs. You'll notice how many Harlequins were in there, and Billy mentioned Harlequins. There's a lot of belief that Harlequins are actually rising in win percentage right now. It does look like that. And that as the meta settles, Harlequins are becoming easier and easier to adapt. I think that's super fascinating, and I'm really excited to see what happens with that. Next up is the Salt Lake Open, Billy, which is Salt Lake City, Utah. 96 players, 6 rounds, probably no beer at that tournament. Top 8 did a day 3 playoff, and you can find these games on the War Games Live on YouTube. The lovely and amazing Joe. This was won by Lee Harris's Chaos Knights. He took 2 big knights and 10 little knights. The amount of knights they could take is offensive. Let's just be clear. 2 big knights and 10 little knights went 8-0-1. He had a tie, and I'm guessing he tied the Space Wolf player that Billy's excited to talk about. And the Space Wolf player, I wanted to get his name and I didn't get it. Did you get his name?
Yes, down Scott Rumpel.
Okay. Scott, we're going to give you the Mitch Pelham Award of the week. Anytime anybody takes Space Wolves and makes them work this well, they should get the Mitch Pelham Award. It would make him so happy if he was here. But the list, Billy, had Wolfguard and Wolfen and Linespeeder Tornadoes and Eliminators, and it was literally like MSU punchy.
Well, and shooty, because those land spears all had multi-meltas, those eliminators all had last fusils, and they all got free rerolls in there. So we'll talk about it a bit later.
Okay, all right. And then Tyranids, 6-2 with Behemoth. That was Matt Evans from Journey Hammer fame. The Behemoth build for Tyranids is becoming the thing that people are running. It has a ridiculously hard to kill Turvagon in the list. A bunch of Tyranid warriors that are hard to kill, and other than that, it's the same stuff you'd expect to see. There were a lot of 6-2s and 5-2s. Blood Angels, Custodes, Death Guard, Alpha Legion, Orcs. Like I said, there's a lot of variety happening. Next up is the Gateway Open in Collinsville, Illinois. I had forgotten filling out the permit to allow them to do this in Collinsville, Billy.
I didn't know you had your own town.
It's true.
To the best of my knowledge, there's no Billysville or Wilsonsville.
Why do I want to have a town in Illinois? I don't know, but I do. I would put, knowing Illinois as I do, I don't know Illinois much at all, I would gamble that Collinsville is a suburb of Chicago. That would be because I don't think there's a lot of other places in Illinois that would be running an 82-person tournament.
That's fair. You know Illinois well enough to pronounce it Illinois and not Illinois. You know the S is silent. So
I prefer, if we're being honest, I prefer to call it Illinois. Is my preference, but I'm not doing that today. Okay.
Well, it's an Indian tribe, so
I know.
Native American.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So Creations of Bile took this down 5-0. Josh Wilson, congrats. His Bile list was similar to what we've been seeing in that he had a Disco Lord and he had a big unit of Terminators and he had Abaddon, and then he had a few other characters as well. But he also took 2 Helldrakes, which I think is fascinating because I went back and looked at the data sheet. They have like 2d3 plus 2 strength 6 AP2 2 damage, but then they hit a little bit in combat. Billy, it's really confusing. I don't understand the Helldrakes. Planes in general are good right now. There's lots of lists that don't have great answers to them if they just fly around the outskirt of the table. Our Yanari lists don't like it. Their sisters don't particularly like them. There's lots of lists that they can get work against, but they just get obliterated against Chaos Knights or Imperial Knights. So I don't know, but pretty neat. Good job, Josh Wilson. Necrons went 5-0 at the same tournament, and much to my joke last week, dude took a Katana and a Silent King, also took a Tesseract Vault, also took a Monolith. So good on him. 4-1s from that tournament is a long list, including a wide variety of armies. We'll just move on from that. Dropping down to a 45-person tournament in Westminster, Maryland, which is not named after me, unlike the previous city.
I'm sorry.
Is Tables and Towers August GT. It was 45 players over 5 rounds, and it was, oh, by the way, the Gateway Open in Collinsville was 82 players. I don't think I said that. Tables and Towers, August GT, Westminster, Maryland. 45 players, 5 rounds, won by Sisters of Battle, Jeffrey Kolodner. Good job, Jeffrey, by the way. He won with Valorous Heart. It wasn't Bloody Rose. Mm-hmm. And then the Necron player that tied him for undefeated had Plains with his Catan and King, which is one of the versions we're absolutely seeing of Necrons. Also at that tournament, Imperial Knights, Necrons, Orcs, Necron Styles, it's all got 4-1. And finally, for my 5, Gemhammer GT in Dayton, Ohio. Dayton, Ohio, the first city I ever flew on a business trip to. When I landed in Dayton, Ohio, the taxi driver said, "Oh, it's your first time here? What do you think?" And I said, "It seems very flat." And he said, No, there's mountains all around us. And I said, "No, I'm from the Pacific Northwest. Those, my friend, are not mountains.
Yeah.
They are hills."
Mhm.
And then it was 90 degrees and 100% humidity. It was actually raining and 90 degrees while I was there, which the Pacific Northwest does not have, and I did not know existed when I got there. So, anyways, little story about Dayton, Ohio. Tyranids won that one with Joshua Minich. Josh took a Jorm list. It looks confusing, but what it really is a list that smites the crap out of you. And Jorm have an ability to make their smites go 21 inches.
That's unpleasant.
And so the extra 3 inches, I'm told by my Tyranid friends, actually makes that list pretty interesting. It's certainly not the standard for Tyranids right now, but it's yet another version of Tyranids that can win. So that's pretty cool. I do want a special shout out to the 4-1 BITN list from that tournament, because we're not seeing Craft World Eldar do well at all, other than the Yunari performance that I had 2 weekends ago. BITN with all the Aspect Warriors is a cool way to run it. There was also an Orc player I want to shout out because he was running double kill rig with Gaz, and that there was a lot of question about whether that was the meta direction, and he did go 4-1 with it at the 40-player tournament. So just a shout out for him. That's what I got, Billy. Why don't you run through yours?
A few more. I get some delightful place names in here. There was the Feast of Blade singles in Amersfoort, Netherlands.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's a good one. And now the downside is I have to try to pronounce names from the Netherlands. We're just going to go with one, which was Simon Gojkovic. I apologize. Southeastern European names are tough for me. But he ran with Tyranid 6-0, Leviathan, Small Bugs, and a Turvagon, not the medium bugs that we normally see there.
So that Turvagon can be just impossible to kill. You can make it T9.
Oh, that's unpleasant.
Or no, I think you can make it T9 -1 to wound. Is actually what I think is happening.
That's distinctly unpleasant. Okay,
yeah.
I can see how that would work.
Yeah.
Then Sisters, Bloody Rose, with no Retributors. Seeing a decent amount of actual no Retributor Bloody Rose lists. Yeah. Dark Angels, that really just looks like someone loved the fluff. It was Terminators and like every named character, along with some bikes. And then 4-2 Catan with Necrons with 1 Catan and no planes.
Okay.
Next, we have the SwordCon 40K in Cape Town, South Africa, which was 28 players. This one was run by Henry Stander, who probably says his name in a much more delightful accent because I cannot do South African. But it is the most distinctive English accent, I believe.
Yeah.
He also Necrons with the Void Dragon and a Transcendent Catan, and then lots of Scarabs. That was his spice. All these Necron lists have the Silent King in them. I'm just not going to mention that.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys. If we see a Necron list that does well, that doesn't have the Silent King, we will make sure to tell you.
For sure. But it's just...
By the way, I do want to update Billy that we've been informed by our producer, Chris, that Collinsville is less than an hour from him. It's a suburb of St. Louis.
Yes.
And I do want to point out that I have multiple friends in St. Louis, so we could go to the Collinsville GT next year and crash it in the middle of nowhere. That'd be fun.
I mean,
sorry, I know that it's not the middle of nowhere. It's the middle of nowhere to me, who lives on the West Coast. I'm being ignorant. Sorry.
I have actually flown into the St. Louis airport and then driven west for a while before, so this would be an opportunity to go into the St. Louis airport and drive east. New experiences. We had the Season of Wa, The Return from Durham, North Carolina. I, like some other people with good taste, refuse to scream "Awa," especially at 7:30 in the morning. This one was won by Frank Viruit, I believe. He was playing Tyranids, 18 Leviathan Warriors, and 2 Harpies. Just because he loves fun, and it's oh man, I had a whole joke here. What's the thing where zero sum? Fun for him is zero sum, and he's going to have all of it. You're going to have none of it. That's fine. There was
Billy really hates the harpies in the list.
No, I hate being on the other side of it. I love them in the list because I largely think in the matchups where they're 300 some odd points of dead weight, you can win that anyway. But I'm also, very
not
merciful.
Knights.
Well, speaking of which, you know what came in second?
Yeah,
Tyranids
still have to work their butt off to beat Imperial Knights if it's played at all well.
I would look into it to see if there was a matchup here against the second place Imperial Knights, which was 3 big ones, Canis, Megara, and a Paladin, along with 4 small ones. Sisters, Bloody Rose. This one, again, 6 Paragon Warsuits, no Retributors. Kind of cool. There's Iron Warriors.
Those Paragon Warsuits, I tell you.
They were cropping up. I actually saw.
I know. Well, lots of people play with them, but they are just. If you look at their point cost, they are just bad. I'm sorry. You play whatever you want to play. Congrats on doing really well. You did wonderful. You put whatever you want in your list. Holy crap, those are expensive.
They were really good for that short period of time where people incorrectly thought they reduced damage to 0. That was fun.
Yes. But also, they don't have an invul, but they do if they're bloody hard. But they bloody rose, excuse me. But if they have a 2-up save, and the problem is that everybody in the game right now is taking as much AP as they can because of armor of contempt. And so, like, I have shot the Gundams, the Paragon Warsuits multiple times, and in fact given them no armor save.
Do they not have armor of contempt?
They probably have armor of contempt
because an AP4 on that puts them to a 5-up, which is sort of functionally an invuln.
Yeah. One time I got to shoot them with fire prisms. Let's move on.
Yeah. There were Iron Warriors who had 2 big chosen blocks. Which is cool. Then Custodes, Bikes and Foot, no tanks or dreads. That was the rest of that one. Then you have the Korea SummerSlam #1 in Seoul, South Korea, a place that's been raining very hot heavily.
I think our buddy Alex from Frontiers was at this tournament.
Alex Matheson?
Mm-hmm.
He finished in 10th, 3-3. So good job on you, Alex, with Custodes. But that event was won by Byung-wook Kim with Leviathan, 9-3-3 Warriors, 2 Carnifexes, and 2 Harpies. So some Carnifexes showing up. Colin, you can tell me my understanding is people are meh on Carnifexes?
No, I mean my Tyranid chat is. But in general, no, they're fine. They're pretty durable. They do a reasonable amount of shooting. They do a reasonable amount of punching. I like that they're a durable thing that punches and shoots. That kind of is just one thing that can go on its own. That doesn't need to be part of a whole, framework of this is all my things. I like that it's kind of an independent operator. Like in Necrons, a lot of people take the one gun guy, the heavy gun guy. I love him. Mm-hmm. I love anytime you have one model that can do a particular job well. It's especially annoying for your opponent to deal with because they have to focus enough shooting to shoot it, but they don't want to overkill it. Versus when they shoot a bigger target or like a big Terminator block, all the shooting is efficient, right? So I like that as just a tool. So I understand it. I actually bought more Carnifexes when the book came out. So I'm on board. I do think that the better builds are leaning heavier into Raveners and Tyranid Warriors, but I don't think Carnifexes are bad.
So would it be fair to say the return of the Distraction Carnifex is a thing? Like, has the name just come all the way back around?
Sure. I mean, they can be really jerks to kill.
Okay.
Some armies have a really difficult time killing them.
Okay, good for me to know. Then there was a second place Imperial Knights with 3 big ones and 4 small ones. And then Black Legion that made some interesting choices in list building. There were only 5 Terminators. They did not take the Black Rune. There were 2 Obliterators. There were no Possessed. It was some interesting choices, but this man went 5-1, and congrats to you, sir.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. Are we good? Is that it?
those are all of the events and the notables. So again, my takeaway, NIDS, I mentioned NIDS a lot. You mentioned Necrons a lot. That sort of seems to be where we're heading with, as you said, Dark Horse Harlequins are probably still just really good.
Well, one of the interesting things that there's a gentleman who I'll shout out. I don't know who it is, but it's JCMS85 on Reddit. He or she has been doing a meta update every Monday, and we always look at it to see some takeaways. And he points out that Tyranids won 5 of the 10 events this week with a 59% win rate, and they made up 20% of the top 5. So that is very dominant. That's probably too dominant, if we're being honest. But at the same time, not that many weeks or months ago, we were upset about. I see the Reddit has changed my username, and boy, did it distract me. Evidently, my name is Disastrous Tune now, which is not what my name was before. I don't hate that, but no, I kind of like it actually.
Disastrous Tune,
and then a number, yeah, Disastrous Tune. I don't.
Interesting.
Yeah, that was not my name before. I wonder if somebody logged into my Reddit and I haven't, and I just haven't logged them out. Anywho, so yeah, that's really interesting. He also points out that Codex Space Marine was 36%, Grey Knights 38%. Thousand Suns at 38% is ridiculous. That book is very strong. Thousand Suns players, come on, guys. Guard at a 43% win rate. But these are all weekend win rates, so they're very, they don't have a lot of data. Yeah. If you're interested in the meta, I do want to shout out that on Sunday at 9 a.m. Pacific, we'll be recording BiffPod episode 112 live. And we're going to get some special guests. I don't know who they are yet. But what we're going to do is we're going to look at the 9.5 meta of what's doing well. And we're going to talk through what's doing well, what are people taking, why does it work, and what do you need to do against it. And we're going to do that for everything, for the top kind of like 10 or so things. And so that should be really great. And we'll talk about win rate percentages in more detail over all of 9.5 rather than just the weekend when we get to that point. Mm-hmm. So we have 5 minutes at our schedule now for you to talk about Space Wolves.
I will talk about Space Wolves. Just because, to your point, Colin, it was an interesting list, and Space Wolves are not something that people have been succeeding with, but I can kind of sort of see what Scott, because he's not just this guy, was onto. First piece to look at when you're looking at a Space Wolf list is, are they actually Space Wolves or are they a successor? And they're almost always a successor. This one, Whirlwind of Rage, because exploding sixes are great, but he took Master Artisans for that, free extra Salamander style reroll, and then just maxed out on a lot of smaller units that are going to optimize that reroll, at least in the shooting. So 3 Landspeeder Tornadoes, which bonus points to anyone who off the top of their head from the name of a Landspeeder can tell you what weapons it has. This one is Assault Cannon Multi-Melta, which for 85 points is not a terrible deal. And then 3 units of 3 Eliminators with Last Fusils and I can never read Battle Scribe. I'm not the Sergeant also, so all Last Fusils. No move, shoot, move. Interesting on them. But when you get free rerolls mixed into that can be both a useful mission tool and good shooting. And then the other piece that we're seeing is Fight on Death is a hell of a drug. Man ran 3 units of Wolfen. No one likes getting touched with Wolfen, and there's a decent chance that
it's actually my kink. So don't judge.
That's fair. We don't kink shame here. But so 3 units of Wolfen, 3 units of Wolfguard with jump packs, 3 units of Incursors to sort of start the pressure off. So this is going to come at you in waves. It's going to be in a lot of places at once. It's going to be much more efficient than the data sheets should be because of the combination of Space Wolf traits and the rerolls. And so it's got a lot of interesting tools that if you try to analogize it out, Creations of Bile is being effective because Fight on Death is miserable for melee armies, and having a bunch of independent but efficient shooting, it's just always been good. So Scott came up with what I think is a very interesting place to start from if you're looking at a Space Wolf list. And does somewhat to break the John Lennon mold of Codex Space Wolf is great if you just take out the wolf and you just make it Codex Space, because there are Wolfen in there. So some actual Space Wolf models.
And Wolf Guard.
Yeah, well, Wolf Guard are basically just fan vets.
No, they have Wolf in their name.
That's true. And they're worse because you can't combat squad them.
Right.
Because reasons.
Yes. I think that list is super cool. I'm very excited that it did well. I think that one thing that people should realize, this is something we talked about on our Discord, which you can get access to through our YouTube or our Patreon group. We talked on our Discord this week about the fact that, so if I say, hey, Billy, I'm thinking that a insert subfaction list could work.
Mm-hmm.
I think I could make it work. Here's what I'm thinking. And then you respond, well, that subfaction is the underperforming one and only has a 40% win rate. That's actually not interesting. The win rates are useful and they're interesting, but win rates don't tell you if a list idea that you haven't seen yet is good. Mm-hmm. They only tell you, well, people are already playing of that, and you also don't know the quality of those people. So don't be afraid to try things.
Yeah.
If you're a good Space Wolf player, make your best Space Wolf list and take it out. I promise you that, like, for example, Thousand Suns at a 40% win rate, that is ridiculously dumb. In just like literally 2 minutes, Hank and Zach are going to tell you about Thousand Suns. That Thousand Suns are very strong. They have Armor of Contempt Terminators that are -1 to hit. Like, they are really good. They have incredible smite. Their secondaries are good. Thousand Suns are a good army. I don't care that they're 41% win rate. That just means that the people that are playing them are not doing well with them. It doesn't mean that you're not going to do well with them. It's the point I'm trying to make. So try to keep an open mind. Try not to shut down your friends when they talk about ideas they want to try. Just try to keep an open mind.
Mm-hmm. No,
that's where we're at. Yeah, stats are interesting, but I'm more interested. I was just going to say I'm more interested in stats telling us who's overpowered than who's underpowered. Is what I was going to say.
And I think my point is stats are good at telling us what, they're not great at telling us why.
Yep,
and if you can articulate a why and what, specifically, I am aiming at this thing. This is my problem statement. This is my solution. This is why I think it works. You can convince your co-host to play Inari. That's all.
Yes, easily. It's very fun. I think that an important note is, like, it could be that your faction, one of the things that the stats guys are doing a good job of beginning to look at is it could be that your faction has a 40% win rate, but that's because everybody's losing to two particular armies. Mm-hmm. And if you figure out that your list can beat those two particular armies, now that 40% win rate is not relevant to you. So it's interesting data when you're creating, but it's not a reason not to look at something, is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we've reached the part of the show where Hank gets his learn on with us. So Hank is back for Hank's Corner, or whatever it is that we're calling this. And Hank is going to talk to the amazing Zach Nelson. Zach has won a handful of majors, a lot of GTs. In our area, Steve Trimble and I, over the last 3 years, have won the most tournaments, and Zach has won the next most. So he is an accomplished tournament player. He plays Thousand Suns fantastically well. Zach is an over-the-top brain. He can do math incredibly fast, sometimes to his detriment at the table. That's a story for another day. But Zach is incredibly smart. He understands 40K at a very, very deep level. One of my favorite practice opponents. We were excited to get him on the show. And with that, I'm going to hand us off to Hank for part one. Remember, if you want part two, you can get that through our members area of YouTube. All right. So now I click this button. Nope, I don't click that button. I click this button. Sorry, we're still learning how all this works.
Well, fuck it. We'll do it live.
Ooh.
I'll get my 1 star.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hank's List Corner, where we talk about relevant lists in the 40K tournament scene and the meta that is currently tearing everyone up. Today, we are going to be talking about Thousand Suns, which is that chaos book full of the sorceress Chaos Space Marines that never seem to die, and no one really is ever crazy surprised when, at least in the current meta, when Thousand Sons do well, just because they're such a flexible army. They're active in all three phases, and they have just a lot of firepower, a lot of durability, and a lot of mobility. And because of that, high-skilled players can get more out of them than meets the eye. They're not unlike Transformers in that respect. So today we have brought Zach Nelson, a GT winner, multiple GT winner, and has done pretty well with Thousand Sons, and he has been a terror of the local Pacific Northwest meta with Thousand Sons, and we're going to talk about his efforts to try and make the list work. Zach, how you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. Yourself?
I am all right. I am all right. Like I said, school has started back this week, so I am basically half dead, but I am here to help everyone with the 40K news of the day. So, Thousand Sons. We're going to go ahead and talk about some of the various list archetypes. There's 2 or 3 out there. We're not going to talk about any specific list because a lot of the lists kind of sort of mostly do the same thing and they're built around the same building blocks. So we're going to talk a little bit about those list variations today. So let's go ahead and look at our list of questions right now. So our first question is just simply, what is the list? And because we don't have a specific list that we're looking at today, just go ahead and Zach, take us through what like the core of a Thousand Sons list is, and like what are the 2 variations that make them different from that core?
Sure. So Thousand Sons lists nowadays are duplicity. And so duplicity attachments have a relic for redeploy, and they can use a psychic power to teleport units around the table. Almost every list is going to have 2 squads of 10 Terminators, basically all the time now. In a post-Armor of Contempt world, everything has that. Everything has Armin, because it's a great special character. People have kind of converged on a configuration for the Zeech's Firestorm caster. Has the Athenaeum Scrolls that makes your direct damage a lot better and more reliable when targeted. And that's going to be in every list. And then there's kind of 2 sub-variants. A local hero, Chuck, and I have worked on a variant that uses 3 little baby knights, and that is a shooting profile that is really good where the Terminators are weak. So it shoots at 723. It's +1 to hitting against monsters, vehicles, and characters. The monsters and vehicles being the standout there where you might have problems. And then the other way you could take the list is with rubrics. And with the rubric list, you're going to have 5 or 6 squads of 5 rubrics. And, rubrics have a strat for -1 damage. They have Armor of Contempt. And so if we're talking about the shooting phase with 1 or 2 damage weapons when they're standing in cover, they're going to have a 0 up save, which is going to be really hard to deal with. And that's what you see like with Marshall Peterson's list at LSO. I ran a list like that at the Seattle Open, and previously I won a GT with a list like that with 30 rubric Marines. And that's kind of leveraging their strengths.
That's fair. Okay, that's a pretty good rundown. So we've got a suite of hyper killy caster characters. We have 2 units of 10-man Terminators, and the Terminators, all their guns are at least AP -2, so they're at least in an Armor of Contempt world, taking people off of their 3+ or 2+ save. They have like the Soul Reaper cannons and the Warp Fire missile racks, so they have a very hellish amount of firepower, and the amount of buffs that you can stack on them, plus their mobility, being able to teleport all over the place, is very, very impressive. And then it sounds like you have a choice between either like a minimum amount of rubrics, and rubrics are just like very durable, and because they have access to basically old school unrestricted warp time, they are surprisingly mobile, along with most of the rest of the list, considering the teleports you can throw out there. Or you can, it sounds like you can run a smaller amount of those, and then 3 Helvrins for the long-range firepower, or you can just say screw long-range firepower and just drown people in impossible-to-kill marine bugs. So that is a very potent combination, and we're going to go ahead now and move on to our next question, which is, and this is where if one of our questions is going to go over time, I have to imagine this is going to be the question. Hey, Zach, what is this list's plan?
Yeah, that's this one could go long. So there are the list can do 2 things really well, and when we talk about rubrics versus Little Knights, we're really talking about which one of the list's strengths do you want to focus on, or the army strengths. So the fact that that's teleporting Terminators means any version of this list can work angles really well. The Terminators are strong enough that as long as you keep them at like their max 30-inch range and you put buffs on them, you can put them in cover in most places, and most people won't be able to kill them. They're going to be hard to deal with. And because they can teleport, if you're on, like, say, a table quarters deployment, they have a lot of choices which angles to push, and they can really kind of go in somewhere and cripple key units you need to kill to make a game work. So that's one real strength, is basically mobility. And when you see people bring knights, you're doubling down on that, because the knights move 12 inches, they shoot the table, so you can just work crazy angles and kind of shoot whatever you want. And you're really going, I'm a shooting armor you can't tie down, and I'm gonna shoot you if you try and hide.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one plan, and that still comes with the standard Thousand Suns thing. Like, we have a good psychic secondary that is doing action on an objective for 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
We have Wrath of Magnus, which has been changed. It basically means if your opponent brings a Psyker, you get 12 to 15 points, which is great. And so you can shoot and do all of that, and it's fine. The other way to take it is to run rubrics, and rubrics are really good at trading, right? Like, for 105 points, they're very hard to kill. So your opponent is going to have a hard time efficiently trading into the second or third squad of rubrics. So, like, everybody can do with one, but like when you get to second, third, fourth unit, you can really run people out of good things to trade it with you with, and then they're putting something that's 250 points in your squad of rubrics. You kill it with your Terminators and profit, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one archetype really tries to get angles and shoot. The other archetype really tries to play the mission well. And like you mentioned, like rubrics, they move 6, they warp time to 12, 3 inches if they have a transport. If they don't, either way, it's 12, 15 inches, and then charge. So you can just charge them onto an objective. They're good enough in combat, they'll kill one model, and they'll win 5 to 4. So you can use them to spar. They're a really great skirmish.
Mm-hmm. All right. So yeah, that is a pretty terrifying plan. Now, one of the things that I'd like to touch on a little bit is, because they're active in all 3 phases and they have Grey Knight levels of teleporting mobility, actually more than Grey Knight levels of teleporting mobility. Grey Knights can teleport, they can teleport 2 units a turn. You can teleport 2 units and then also warp time a thing. So yeah, like being able to work the angles, being able to stand in the perfect spot as long as the enemy hasn't gotten there yet, plus your ridiculous mortal wound output. So we're going to get to this a little bit more when we get to the question about like combos and things that the list can pull off. The mortal wound output of this list makes Grey Knights blush. It is borderline absurd. And I have seen Zach, I have seen multiple other players just make completely outrageous come from behind plays because this list can just basically be like, where on the table needs to have 17 mortal wounds slapped on it. And wherever that spot is, Thousand Suns are going to be able to put something there and channel all of their Cabal points into just making all of those mortal wounds happen. And because of that, even if this plan goes awry, they've probably got something else up their sleeve and some kind of play that they make. And that's one of the reasons why I always respect a Thousand Suns player that knows what they're doing, because they'll be able to spot some weakness in what I am doing, and that is a problem that they're going to be able to make for me. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to our question number 3. Hey, Zach, do any specific missions noticeably modify this plan?
So the first thing to note is that so the 2 versions of Thousand Suns are very different in this. If you play all the rubrics version, you're going to be substantially stronger on hold 2, hold 3s. Because you have a million units of bullshit. They're hard to kill, and they'll trade up into anything. Usually you can make 3 or 4 of the squads have flamers, which is great. So if we're going to be really spread out, that really shines. The version that wants to work angles and shoot actually does worse on Dawn of War, because the board is really narrow and it's easier to control the angles. If you get table quarters or like the old Vanguard deployment where we're diagonal lines against an army that can teleport, you can work crazy angles. It's much harder on Dawn of War. Your opponent has an easier time. So depending on how you're set up will depend on on which kind of plan you go for.
Okay, that's an interesting nuance. The different types of the list give you wildly different options depending on the mission deployment types, and that is definitely noteworthy. So if you're on you're on table quarters and you see friggin' baby knights, it's probably not going to be all right. But Dawn of War, baby knights, not going to be so hot. So there you go. All right. Let's go ahead and just keep on trucking. All right. What are the standout units / combos? Go ahead and break down, like, I don't know, what are the top 3 scariest combo things that you can pull off with this list?
Sure, yeah. So there's like 3 main things, and I'll put like 1 or 2 little maybes behind it. So the first thing is obviously Terminators that teleport. That seems pretty obvious, but you have 32 bolter shots at 4-2-1 or 5-2-1, 10 shots at 7-3-1, and then 4 shots at 8-2-D3. That's the exact profile. That will teleport wherever and shoot anything you let it shoot. If you like, yeah, go ahead.
It can potentially also have Veterans of the Long War.
Yes, also +1 to wound. Yeah. So like I played a sister's opponent over last weekend, and it was table quarters, and the terrain was not friendly for working angles. I jumped some teleporters and got to fire at 3 units of Repentia at the same time. Kind of worst case scenario, but that's one thing to look out for with teleporting Terminators. Brad Townsend in his list has one thing that's really important you want to look for on someone's list. He has a no Force Org slot sorcerer that has Aether Stride and Loyal Thrall. Loyal Thrall lets a caster do a psychic action as if it was a normal cast. This person will also have Temporal Surge, which is Thousand Suns version of Warp Time. And the Aether Stride roller trait makes them move 9 inches instead of 6. So they can move advance into the middle of the table, do Warp Ritual, and then without paying any CP, Warp Time themselves backwards. Or if you want to go really crazy, they can move advance, Warp Time themselves to move again, do the thing, and then cast again and teleport themselves out if they really had to.
That, as an Eldar player, is some Eldar quicken jet bike shenanigans right there. Yeah. And the fact that you can do that while being in power armor with Armor of Contempt is mildly terrifying.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like nothing to really look out for. There are some other things that are less common I have liked in the past. I use less now. You can make a sorcerer that moves like 30-something inches in missile charge. I call him the missile sorcerer, or the sorcerer. He is real good at going to kill stuff. So look out for that. Like if you roll up something, you see a sorcerer with Thirdagyre, which is the disc, and Aether Stride, which is the move more warlord trait, that person's going to go forever in charge. So if you have characters that are relevant to your army, you need to keep them perfectly bubble wrapped. Otherwise, they will die.
So just curious, what is that guy's profile in combat?
Oh yeah, so when it's all said and done, he will have 7 attacks at strength 7, AP3, 2 damage. And he can also like do flat 3 plus D3 mortals before he charges you. So right, 3 to 5 mortals, and then take 7 attacks at 7, 3, 2. He'll clear a squad of troops off an objective. He'll do whatever. Just know that he's going to go wherever he wants, do whatever he wants, and good luck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 7 attacks at 7, 3, 2 is. Like, it's not nothing, but it's not like top tier scary, especially when there's a lot of -1 damage running around in the meta right now. But being able to slap it for 3 plus D3 mortals before he goes in just adds a whole extra level of threat on top of that. Is that guy a missile and then dies after he goes in, or is he capable of pulling some kind of shenanigans that then allows him to extract himself, like he's a Harlequin character or something?
Yeah, he moves 6 inches any direction after he fights. He's consolidating you anyway after he fights. So he won't get killed on the slap back that phase, but coming into your next turn, he's still a T4 body with 5 or 6 wounds that's going to go poof.
Sure. Okay. Assuming you can grab line of sight on him or anything. So he has a little bit of a trick if you can get him out on a flank and hit something isolated and then back off behind a ruin or something.
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah. Okay. That's having that nice little treat and twist there at the end is adding insult to injury.
Always when you consolidate him behind the wall and your opponent's like, God damn it. Now I can go take him out.
Exactly. Now I have to do a thing. Okay. So actually, I think we covered a decent amount of information, and I think we're going to go ahead and call this the end of part 1. If you want to join us for the advanced shenanigans in part 2, go ahead and tune in to the other part of the channel.
We're back.
We are.
That was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed how much gamer Zach looked like. He looked like he had boxes of like 40K unopened models around him, and like he had his gamer headset on, and it was dark in the room. It was wonderful. And I don't know about in your professional life, Billy, but every once in a while in mine, I'll talk to some programmer whose room is dark with like game nerd stuff all over the room. And it'll be like this real solid, like teenage, I don't want to turn the lights on vibe. And I love that. It makes me very happy.
Yeah, despite living in San Francisco and having a wife who works in tech, since I do not, I tend to be as close as anyone would come to that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough then.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank everybody for joining us for This Week in 40K, the show that is about the grimdark and is neither grim nor dark. What do you think? Is that a good?
I like it. I like it. Now we just need to poke Chuck to turn us into cartoons.
Yes, I think that's in process. Did you give him a picture?
I gave him a picture.
Okay. And I want to remind you guys, if you want the second half of Hank's list corner, you can become a YouTube member, and you have the option. And when you do that, of either just being a YouTube member or also getting access to our Discord, you'll see those options there. And that will get you the second half of Hank's show each week. It'll get you the second bit rep we post each week. And it gets you a bunch of other stuff that you'll see at bestoftabletop.com/subscriptions. It's nice having our own website where we can make our own easy URLs.
Mm-hmm.
And Billy and I will be back next week
Indeed.
to tell you guys more about what's going on in 40K. For this week, I am Colin because somebody has to be, and you are Billy.
Indeed.
All
See
right.
you next week, guys.
Bye, everybody.